Hey, what's up, everybody? So we actually started 8 seconds early today. Normally normally we are always like, I don't know, like 30 seconds late because we press the button in plenty of time and then it like twirls
Goes
and
to space and
twirls.
back.
So I'm like, okay, how about we press that button a little early today? So we are early. Hey, Owen. Hey, Raymond. I know I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, so you can correct me later if you watch the replay of this for Fadimu. I know you'll be on in just a few minutes. Hey, Carlos and Anela. What's up, guys? So let us know where you're joining us from. We want to say hi. Today, we're going to walk you through how we write emails. So we're going to take you through the whole process that we do. Now we do as a team, but I'm also going to kind of, feel like we should have a sound effect. I'm going to take you back in time to when I did this by myself, because I realized that everybody joining today is at a different stage. Some of you, you're by yourself. Some of you have somebody in your room with you right now. Robbie, so no, some of you are
it's that dad Zoom call look.
Oh, yeah.
The kid's here.
Trying to maintain eye
You like
contact
shake
with the
your
camera.
head.
Yeah,
Hey, Marilyn. Hey,
the,
Jim.
The subtle go away.
Yeah. Can you just real quick in real life, like seriously, this is what I love about technology is like we're doing this, like we could be doing this from a stage. Can you imagine in real life if your kid just walked up on stage and was like, "Dad, I need to poop"?
And every kid would, if they were there, they would do it.
Like, really? You're on stage and you didn't have a backup plan, like a babysitter or maybe a spouse or a friend watch your child,
But you know what? The best part of the current situation is that everybody's dealing with this right now.
Or if like your kid was off to the side of the stage, you're on stage and you're like, as I was saying, so what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through this. We're going to show you our process now. That's what you guys asked for. When we asked you a few weeks ago if you wanted to know this, you said absolutely. And so we're going to share our process now, but we're also going to share, as we go along, I'm going to kind of share the solo version of that. Some of you, maybe you have just you plus a VA, virtual assistant. Maybe it's just you and your spouse, maybe you and a business partner, whatever it is. Here's the cool thing about what we're sharing today. This not only applies to emails, this applies to all content. Like we're literally using the process that we're teaching today, doing the Facebook Live today. And I just got a text from our pharmacist. I always get a text when I'm on a Facebook Live. It literally never fails. This time it's not CBD oil. It's telling me a prescription is ready. Speaking of prescriptions, I will forewarn you guys. I am currently taking a prescription. I know like those of you in our mastermind know a lot more of the details. But I'm currently taking a prescription that gives me really, really bad dry mouth. And so I will be sipping a lot of water and possibly taking a few breaks because it feels like I have like a bucket of cotton in my mouth right now. It is the weirdest feeling. So just forewarning you guys on that. Again, let us know where you're joining us from. And Mark just texted me and said, buy CBD oil. You had to do that. Because it was like a running joke, guys. Last like 4 Facebook Lives we've done, every time I would get a text saying like a spam text saying buy CBD oil. So
I didn't want you to lose that.
Yeah, that streak there. So I'm going to share, first of all, we're going to start with step 1. Because that's a good place to start. Again, let us know where you're joining us from. Also, let us know if you have any questions as we go along. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. We would love to answer those, whether it's about writing emails or, just kind of this process. I didn't even count the number of steps we have. Some of these are pretty quick steps, but it's roughly about a 15-step-ish process. So super in depth. Hope you guys are okay with that because we're going to share everything today. We're going to go like through the whole process. So let me share my screen. And then Mark, I think you have to press like a button or something.
I'm like, and by share your screen, you mean add it and then I'll share it.
Well, yeah.
Here it comes.
Okay, so you guys should be able to see my screen now. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. And Jim is in Roanoke, Virginia today. What's up? That's right, because you were taking your daughter to college. That is awesome. So what you see here is our content calendar. This is CJ's in my old ish stomping grounds. I grew up in Pinehurst, CJ. So about hour and a half down US 1 there in Pinehurst, North Carolina. CJ's joining us from Raleigh today. What's up? So this is our content calendar. This is where it all starts. So for instance, we would map this out, and we're getting better at this. How far in advance are we now, Robbie? We're good. What would you say?
4 to 6 weeks, but we have the themes even further out, about 9 months.
Yeah. So we'll plan themes, just general, like we want to promote this or we want to talk about this. We'll plan that months and months in advance. But typically we'll plan like the very specific content. Now, like Robbie said, we're about 4 to 6 weeks out. Before that, we were 3 to 5 weeks out, and before that, we were 2 to 4 and 1 to 3, and before that, like days, But we've gotten better at it. And when you're on your own, there's not a lot of moving parts. I feel like being 1 or 2 weeks ahead is actually okay. It's perfectly acceptable to be only about 2 weeks ahead in terms of the exact content, because you don't have a whole team who's got like different moving parts, and Robbie's going to be out from next Tuesday through Thursday, so we've got to account for, as you'll see in this process, his role in that process can't be done next Tuesday through Thursday, so we have to make sure that it's done by Monday, and that of course affects everybody else's calendar. So what you see here is just, I'm going to just scroll up a little bit too, and you can see just in general. Actually, no, we've hidden those. Okay. So you can see that this area is colored in blue. This is a specific promo for a thing that we did called Start Day. I know some of you attended Start Day. And awesome. It was just an amazing day, amazing mastermind day. Just saw some huge breakthroughs for the people who attended. And yes, we'll do one sometime in the future. If you're interested in attending, maybe Mark can, I don't know if we have a link where they can sign up for the wait list or something, but Mark can drop that link. And
I'll see.
Yeah, you guys, who's going to create that right now? Probably no.
Probably.
Anyway, but you can see here just what we put on this before we mail this. So this subject line would actually not be on here. That comes later. But we know what the link format's going to be. We know what the topic's going to be. We know, as it says here, just says, going live. That's telling us that we're going live with a Facebook Live. We have here, what it's actually promoting. As we go down here, you can see it's like, what am I promoting? The Facebook Live tomorrow. Because just for the record, when I say promoting, even if you're offering free content, you've got a podcast, a Facebook Live. Hey, Anna, you're promoting your content. You're promoting your Facebook Live. You're promoting your blog post. You're promoting your lead magnet. No different than you're promoting a sales page. No different than you're promoting a product or an affiliate offer. Okay, so when I say promoting, that's what we're doing. And so you see here in this drop down, it has where we're at. To write it, I need to write it. It needs to be drafted. Actually, Robbie, I don't understand. What's the difference between? No, drafted means it's written. Okay, yeah.
Drafted means you've written it.
Yep. I was like, what's the difference? Okay, yeah. So drafted. Then he's published, put the draft in. CK stands for Convertkit. We'll tell you more about that later. And then it's been scheduled. Green means it's done. As you can see, when we get down here, there's not any green ones other than the ones that are for a specific promotion. So you can see here what we've got as far as when it's going to be sent, what the link's going to be. We have over here any notes, which we don't use those a ton. We use those in a different spot. But you can see the first step is just to get it on your content calendar. Map out the theme. So for instance, here, this green area here, well, actually, we'll skip that. Right now, we're promoting something called List Launch Challenge, and we'll tell you more about that as you go along. So in the stuff leading up to that, we talked about themes that led to people thinking about List Launch Challenge. So the first step is just to get your content calendar, just start adding stuff to it, start adding the major events. I'll share some of this other stuff like you see here, like holidays and observances and things like that, like National Aviation Day. These days here, like you see, my son's birthday just happened. on August 15th, and I marked off 3 days there. That's more so that as we're looking at this and we're looking at like what's going on, that it tells me and the others, okay, Robbie's not going to be on the Facebook Live next week. You know, he's out on Thursday, so it'll be just me and Mark. I know you guys are all sad. If you're sad, just give us a sad face, you know, and say we'll miss you, Robbie. It'll make him feel good, if nothing else. But like that way we know those things. Also, you know, if Mark's going to be out and Mark, you know, we plan on Mark reviewing a certain thing, then we need to know that. So it's like, okay, if I'm looking at this and this email is typically due, say, you know, 4 days before we, you know, we're going to write it, but Mark's going to be out from 3 days before through, you know, the day after it's due. Like, I don't have any wiggle room, because sometimes I'm like, you know, as you'll see when we go through this process, sometimes I'm like, hey, Robbie, I'm so sorry. Life got in the way today. I'm going to be a day late with when this email's due. And it's like, hey, no big deal when we're normally 4 days in advance. But if he's going to be out, that is a big deal. So step one is get it on your content calendar, map out those themes, map out the promos, map out the content. Yeah, bud.
I just want to point something out for everybody here. Notice that this isn't some crazy productivity scheme or anything. This is just a spreadsheet. We've kept it really simple. Used you know, some basic drop down, some conditional formatting. I mean, but that's about as advanced as it gets.
He kept it really basic, and then he just talks about like two things that I don't even know what that means.
Okay. So, but you don't have to do that. Like, you could literally do this, you know, with lines on paper. You could put this on graph paper if you had to. The system is designed to be as simple as possible, because, you know, that's how you're going to actually get it done.
And I want to speak to something, because this is something I discovered, much like the title of this book here by Jocko Willink, Discipline Equals Freedom. As much as I believe in that, I also believe that structure leads to creativity. I see Anna's comment there. I need to be more organized with emails. Here's the thing. I am not the type who likes spreadsheets. I mentioned that before. I can't stand spreadsheets. And I felt like having this amount of structure would strip the creativity from me, you know. But I've actually found it gives me more creativity, because it used to be that I would sit down and I would look at, okay, email due. What's the email about? And I would have to go through all these steps, like when I sit down to write the email. And some of these steps, like looking at the content calendar, planning this, and then the writing of the email, they take different parts of the brain. They're, you know, left. I always forget which one's left and which one's right. I think right brain is creativity, left brain is analytical. I'm pretty sure that's right. My psychology professors are all like, gosh, really? You couldn't even get that right?
Did you not listen at all?
I'm sure my psychology professors are going to watch this, you know, from college. They're all dead. They were like old when they were teaching me. Anyway, so it was mean.
Jeez.
All right. So, but the point is, they require different parts of your brain. And it's really hard for us. This is a psychological principle. It's really hard for us to go from the analytical to the creativity, to the analytical to the creativity, the analytical to the creativity. It's why when I sit down, I've got most of these steps done. As you'll see, I can go straight into creative mode and stay there for like an hour and a half, 2 to 3 hours, and write a ton of emails. So, all right, the next step. So we've got it on our calendar. Next step is, what is the purpose? You want to be clear about the purpose. Like, am I trying to sell something? If you remember on there, when we were doing the start day promo, the purpose of that email one day, it was sell start day. It was get them to start day, get them to register for start day. But maybe it's to read a blog post or listen to a podcast, or, you know, come to a Facebook Live. Is it to download something, to watch something? Sometimes as you're going through, the purpose of the email is to introduce them to a topic. You know, we talked about warming your audience up for an affiliate promo. We have an affiliate promo coming up in September, starts September 8th. The previous 3 days before that, our content will be focused on getting people to begin thinking about the topic and the person associated with that topic. I'll go ahead and say it now, Jeff Walker. Okay. So like right there, I just planted Jeff Walker's name in your brain. If you don't know who he is, now it's already somewhere in your subconscious, right? So sometimes that's the point. Is it to warm them up for a specific promotion, an affiliate promotion, a product of your own? Doesn't matter. So that's step 2, is to just get really clear on the purpose of this email. And an email has one purpose. Click to read the blog post. Click to watch the Facebook Live. Click to listen to the podcast. Click to learn more and buy about and buy the product. You might say, well, that's 2 things. It's really one thing. You're going to learn more and buy product, hopefully in that. My only objective with this email is to introduce them to the person behind it. Is to introduce them to a topic. My only purpose is to get a reply so that I learn something. In our automation emails, many of you have received this email. I basically ask the question. I say, hey, would you please respond and let me know what your number one struggle with monetizing your platform is? My purpose to that email is to get a reply so that I can read the reply, because I do read all of those emails, by the way. I read that email and I go, that's the number one struggle. And over time, I learn. But I'm very clear on the purpose. Third, you need to decide who it's going to. Okay? Who is this email going to? It's not necessarily everyone. I'm looking at our calendar over here, and if you remember, we had a section called Who, and I'm just going to read through this. Who, all before a certain date, all before a certain date who haven't bought, all before a certain date, unopens of email number 1, people who didn't click email number 2, all before a certain date, unopens, all before a certain date, all minus the people who are currently in this particular automation sequence, all before a certain date, all minus people who bought this. I mean, you can see there's like tons of variables. Here's one. It's everyone who didn't opt into this other thing, this affiliate promotion. I don't even know what this one means, but I think I know what this one means. It means Robbie codes them, it's like, it's everyone who did. So if we're doing an affiliate promotion, we don't want just everything to be necessarily about that affiliate promotion, especially if they haven't opened like the previous 5 or opted in, via the previous 5 or 6 emails. We'll move on to other stuff with that person. So we'll take that one and we'll segment and we'll promote the thing that we're promoting to the people who opted in, but we'll promote something else to the other people. And then 3 days later, when that promotion ends, we'll promote the thing that we promoted to the people who didn't opt. I just got confused.
I was going to say, you went way overboard there.
But it's called segmenting. You want to think who needs to get this email. So Robbie, can you talk about that just a little bit? Just kind of unless I kind of covered it there.
Yeah, you got most of it. But our whole goal here is to make sure that the right person is receiving the email. A couple things. One, it's better for deliverability because we want people to open our emails. Everybody wants their emails opened. And if you are sending things that aren't interesting, people aren't going to open them. And so we segment our audience here so that they get what they need instead of what we feel like telling them about. If somebody's opted out of something, then we don't need to tell them about that anymore. They've raised their hand and said, hey, I don't want to know any more about, this promotion. And we just send them to a page that says, hey, we won't tell you about this promotion anymore. And we leave them out going forward until the next year. But the whole goal here, it's to customize it. Like we all have that friend who just continually sends chain letters through email and stuff like that. And you're like, I just want to block this person, right? So this is our chance so that we're not that annoying friend. We're the friend that's actually giving you value. We're giving you what you want and what you've asked for.
Well, Robbie, it was such a good email. I don't know why you're acting that way. Oh. No, and one of the things that I'll say with that too is I think it's important to remember that our segmenting did not start off this complex. No. And some segmenting is better than no segmenting. Your segmenting for now might just be, hey, I don't want to send it to anybody that signed up in the last week. It can be very simple, and then as you get the hang of it, you'll add more things and you'll get more things included in there, but it doesn't have to be that complex, because I'm sure there was somebody watching this as you were explaining that, Matt, saying, well, you lost me. I'm done.
Yeah,
no, that's a good point. Like when we started out, it was, everybody before this date, somebody who opted in through this form instead of this form. And you can keep it that simple. Okay, that's a great point, Mark. We don't have to overcomplicate it. No. We do that because we have the ability to now.
Yep. And we'll talk about how we have that ability in a second, but just, I mean, early on, it also, a lot of it depends on how homogenous your audience is. If your audience really and truly is all retirees who want to grow organic tomatoes in their backyard, you don't really have to do a whole lot of segmenting. Your segmenting literally might just be if they didn't open email A, they don't get email B, they get email A resent to them. Like that could be the extent of it. Our audience is more diverse, not only in age, but also interests, where they're at. We have people who are, and you can let us know in the chat, like, are you a total beginner? Have you made $0 from your platform? We have people who made $0, people who make $100, people who make literally hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in our audience. And so because of that, we do need to do some segmenting. A lot of times it's, if you don't click on a podcast episode after 30 emails about a podcast episode, you may want to not send them, podcast episodes anymore because they're just not clicking. They're just not interested. So Chase asked, who are these guys? Sorry, I missed the beginning. I'm assuming you mean, Chase, you mean Robbie and Mark. So we'll go top to bottom. Just for those of you who don't know, most of you know, top is Mark Sieverkrop. Mark has been with us for almost 6 years. Is it over 6 years or over 5 years?
6 years.
Yeah, 6 years. Wow.
Feels like forever, really.
He's our head coach in your affiliate launch coach. So if you need some training on how to run your affiliate program, Mark's the guy. Mark's been a part of dozens of affiliate programs and affiliate launches and all that stuff. Robbie below that is our head of operations. He is our he's the guy that makes what I'm teaching today even possible. Because if we were doing this pre-Robbie, PR,
we did, and it wasn't pretty.
what the process would be like 3 steps, and it would be a total mess, not organized. So now it's like I actually know my steps, and like I said earlier, this structure gives me creativity. It allows me to be creative. So mention segmenting. The tool that has allowed us to do segmenting, the way that we do it is called Convertkit. We switched to Convertkit almost a year ago today. It's been, it'll be like, I think it's like September 7th or something will be our 1 year anniversary with Convertkit, our Convertkit anniversary. There should be something that we get, hint Convertkit, when we hit that day. A freaking t-shirt or something, a sticker. No, I'm just kidding. But we're going to share later how you can get a free trial of Convertkit up to 1,000 subscribers. So you can have 1,000. You can literally have 999 people, 1,000. I don't remember if you start paying at 1,000 or if it's up to 1,000. It doesn't matter. Like for free, like literally for free. And I'm going to share how you can get an exclusive training. If you're like, yay, I want to set up Convertkit and segmenting, and that's intimidating. I don't know how to do it. Robbie will walk you through step by step. It's like a 45-minute to an hour-long training that we have for you. So it's super awesome. So, all right, real quick. We got it on our content calendar. We've got the purpose of the email. We decided who it's going to. We've segmented it. Many times it is all. If you look at, Robbie, what's your guess? 50% of the emails we send to pretty much the whole list. Probably about accurate, maybe 60%.
Yeah.
Now we need to know, what's the CTA? What is the call to action? Now this ties into the purpose. Side note, when I go through these steps, it's not like I do this step, then this step. A lot of these do blend together over time, and we'll skip around sometimes because it's like we have a flash of brilliance. So we don't want to dismiss that. It doesn't have to be, okay, I've got the purpose, now the call to action. They literally just go right into each other. But you want to have a clear CTA. This is a very quick step, but you need to do it. Where do I want to send them? Okay, my call to action is listen to the podcast. My call to action is learn more and enroll. My call to action is come to the Facebook Live. My call to action is whatever it is. So that's the super simple step, but you still want to make sure you do that. Next, I want to know, when is it sending? Now, it's going to send on Tuesday. Big deal, right? Well, not necessarily. Are there any holidays? If you remember earlier, I showed you on here, on our calendar. In fact, we need to get some new ones added. I think Kevin is working on those, but we've got, like, not only do we have a personal days, but we have things like National Missing Children's Day, Mark's wife's birthday, which could have been an excuse to, there could have been a tie in there if we had Mark send an email. We've got obviously all the, the big ones like Christmas and New Year's on here, but even some holidays that sometimes we just forget, like Flag Day. I happen to know it's June 14th. Yeah, Victory over Japan Day. I'm afraid to even ask about that. The Army's birthday, like we could totally have done something. American Eagle Day, Solstice, Father's Day, Robbie's out. Oh, that's not a holiday. Sorry.
Yeah, it might be.
My birthday, that's definitely a thing that we could use. Bastille Day, Tax Day. Oh, yeah. Parents' Day, National Korean War Veterans Armistice Day. This is a tough one just because of the link there, but like it gives us possible themes for our emails. Yeah, Sweetest Day. That's totally a Midwest thing, isn't it, Jim? I'd never even heard of that till I moved up there or moved up here. And we put those on our content calendar because sometimes I can look over and be like, man, did you know that it's like National Sperm Whale Awareness Day? And just in case you weren't aware of sperm whales, now you are. And that reminds me that we have a Facebook Live coming up tomorrow that's huge. Like, sperm whales are the biggest whales. And we have a Facebook Live coming up tomorrow that's huge. Like, that's a stretch, but hey, I've made bigger stretches. What day is it going out? Like, is it a Friday? Friday has a different feel than Monday. And, is it a weekend? Is it hump day? Is it whatever? What time is it going out? This affects messaging. If I'm sending an email that goes out at 11 o'clock at night, I'm going to use a theme related to going to bed. I'm going to use a theme related to, hey, I know it's late. You want to acknowledge those things. If it's going out, if it's going out at 5:30 in the morning, I'll say something like, I'm up early, and here's why. Sometimes I might write an email early. I will write an email like, it'll be, 5:30 in the morning. If I can't sleep, I'll get up and I'll be writing an email. And it might not go out for 4 days, but I'll write an email like, I'm literally about to watch the sunrise. I'm hurrying to finish this email so I can go watch the sunrise and, blah, blah, blah. Look for anything that can give you ideas, as far as when is it sending. Weird holidays, significant holidays, your birthday, your kids' birthdays, your spouse's birthday, your best friend's birthday, your company's anniversary. Even
things like that you see in the news, like when we were launching a product earlier this year and they shut down basketball. That was an excuse for us to mail like, hey, they just shut down basketball. Here's an email. Yeah.
Definitely don't be tone deaf to what's going on in the world in your content. Oh my goodness. Like if you didn't acknowledge the pandemic until April, you screwed up. Like don't do that. Yeah, so when is it going out? Next, on your doc, and I'm going to show you our doc in a little bit, you want to list out any facts. So again, I'm going to show you the doc that we use. It's actually completed emails, so you won't get to see a lot of the process. But I put the facts on there. What time is the webinar? So if I'm promoting a webinar within somebody that we're promoting, just what time is the webinar? What time is the Facebook Live? When's the deadline? Is the deadline to join at noon Eastern or midnight? Little things like that. I mean, I'm trying to think of any other facts that we would typically put on there, but like, these are the type of things. The reason why I want them right there in front of me is I don't want to be writing the email in creative mode and then have to go chase down another thing that tells me when the stinking webinar is. Again, I've now gone from right brain creative to left brain find the information. That's not healthy. And it also matters because if the webinar is at 9 p.m. Eastern time, I want to acknowledge that, hey, I realize that's at 2 o'clock in the morning for those of you in Western Europe. I want to acknowledge that. If it's at 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, I want to acknowledge that, hey, if you're on the West Coast, maybe you're having breakfast with us on the webinar. And those are the little facts that I want to list out there as I'm getting ready to write this email. Next, I list out any other notes. So looking over here at this doc, like I would want to know, are we using a timer in the email? You know, and if so, what am I thinking? And I'll talk more about this in the theme, but like, where's that timer going to go? Typically, the closer we get to a deadline, the more this is a general rule that you can apply, the more the timer moves up to the top. Like when we send a final deadline reminder, that timer is like the first thing you see, like boom, 1 hour and 5 minutes left. You know, here's what I want to say in the email. I'll put a note like, you know, don't split test, or make sure to split test. You know, because maybe as we were talking about a theme, we came up with a couple of subject lines. We'll talk about that later, subject lines. But maybe we already came up with those. Make sure we split test. Make sure we split test a piece of content in the email. We're not sure if we want to say, what did we do? I don't know if Mark, if you remember this, or Robbie, but there was one where I was like, I really didn't know if it was going to be like 7 killer mistakes to avoid or 7 things you must do to do something. I didn't know which one was going to work best. So we split tested it. And I made that note. Like, I'm basically going to say the same thing in the email, except for this like 2-sentence stretch that we're going to split test. Turned out mistakes won big time in that particular case, just as a side note. I mean, what other notes have we ever put in there? You guys think of any just like little notes to make sure we remember to do stuff? Put you on the spot there.
No, I think you covered most of it. Cool. It's anything that is going to help us identify who that person is who's getting this email.
Yeah. And so speaking of notes, well, the next thing, and this is definitely, and Jim says, I love to hear more about writing killer subject lines. You're going to hear that in just a little bit. Not a lot of the how, but we'll dive into it enough. So now we go into the general message. Okay, again, I'm just creating a quick outline. Just for the record, this whole process up to this point has taken me about 28 minutes to teach. Takes me about 3 minutes to do, maybe 4, just for the record. What I'm doing here is I'm giving myself a box to work in, and then I can go crazy with the creativity. It's all about, like I said, it's all about making sure that when I sit down to write the email, I can focus on writing. I don't have to chase down or start from scratch and use that left brain, then the right brain, then the left brain, then the right brain. I can just go all right brain. So I'm thinking about like, what's my theme, of the email? What emotion am I going for? Am I trying to make people angry? Sometimes that's what you're trying to do. Anger, you're trying to upset people. Am I trying to get them to be introspective? Am I trying to get their, nice. Owen is up at 4:30 Australian time, drinking coffee and watching you blokes. Man, I hope the lockdown's not too terribly awful over there. I've heard some pretty scary things about Melbourne in particular. Anyway, so what emotion am I going for? Am I trying to make them laugh? We talked about that in the visualization exercise that I shared a couple of weeks ago, or I think it was 2 weeks ago. And I'll share that again here in just a minute, where that falls in the process. But am I trying to make them laugh? Am I trying to make them, question something? Am I trying to make them feel bad about themselves? I know that that can be a thing. It's not something I typically do, but imagine you're selling a product to, a weight loss product or something. Are you trying to get them to, are you trying to instill fear? If you don't quit smoking, here's what your freaking lungs are going to look like. What are we trying to do with this email? So what's the emotion I'm going for? I do usually make a decision at this point. Is the email going to be long or short?
Can you define those for everybody? What's the difference between a long versus a short email? Just like word count.
A short email doesn't have many words. Dude, if you're gonna put the ball on a tee, I'm gonna swing at it. And a longer email, it just has more words. I feel like that. What is that? Oh man, there's a I can't remember who that made me think of. Shoot,
Brian Regan.
No, yeah, kind of Brian Regan. It could be it could be like I could see Owen Wilson doing that.
Yeah.
I met a guy the other day, by the way, who does the perfect Owen Wilson impersonation. It was so fun because he does have such a like it's short, and then oh no, John Madden. That's who it is. It's Frank Caliendo doing John Madden.
John Madden too.
Yeah. You got the short email. There's more words. No, so here's an example. Like some of these, we have self limitations. What I mean by that are, if I'm reminding you that I'm going live right now with the Facebook Live, it's not going to be a 30-word email. It's going to be a 30-word email. That's actually really short. It's not going to be a 300-word email where I'm convincing you to come. I've already done that in previous emails. It's just, hey, I'm going live. Click here. Like that's basically the gist of the message. An email where I'm asking like an FAQ email, and I'm answering your question, Robbie, I'm giving some perspective, where I'm answering the 10 most common questions people have about this product. That's by definition super long. But if I've come up with the general theme and I want to tell a story about, I'm going to show you guys an email here in a little bit when we go through this. I'm going to show you, I think I've got this one in here. Yeah, I've got an email example where I talk about, the hardest part of running an online business, blah, blah, blah. And in that email, I'd predetermined this email is going to be long-ish. If I'm telling a really long story, I know it's going to be long. So I'm just determining, does this email need to be a quick hitter? It's a deadline email, that kind of thing. Or does it need to be a little bit longer? And typically, or medium length, it might just be a medium length email. Then I have a 2 to 7 bullet points of what I want to say. So I'm looking at this one email, and I'll share this email with you guys, but just to use as an example. Here's what I wanted to say. I wanted to talk about how 77% of people said the hardest part about running their online business is growing their email list. That was the thing. I wanted to talk about List Launch Challenge. I wanted to talk about what List Launch Challenge is. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that it only opens up once a year. I wanted to address the pandemic. I wanted to address the, some of the ifs and some of the objections. Like that was basically what my bullet points were. It wasn't fully thought out stuff. Every now and again, as I'm doing the bullet points, I'll have a fully thought out sentence and I'll write that and I'll end up using that. But then the next step is I say, okay, here's where I want to start. I knew in this email, for example, that I wanted to start with I wanted to start with the fact that we surveyed people and we asked them the question, what's the hardest part about running your online business? I then wanted to take that and talk about List Launch Challenge, and I wanted to end with calling them to action. So you just kind of have a general view of where do you want to start, where do you want to go, and where do you want to end? Your beginning, your middle, and your end. And again, I'm going to show you some examples of this shortly. The next thing I'll do, this is a sometimes thing, is I'll review swipe files. I'll have this theme in mind. So I've come up with the theme of I want an email that pokes a little bit. Just use an example. I want an email that pokes a little bit, that causes people to be a little bit uncomfortable, that asks some tough questions. We actually call it our tough questions email, our TQ email. Or I've got an email that I want them to reply to. And so I'll then go look at my swipe files. I'll look at past emails that we've sent. I'll look at other people's emails and get inspiration. Sometimes I'll literally go through my own, like I said, this is something we sell here. I'm going to show you how you can get a digital copy of this free here in a second. But sometimes I'll go through this and I'll flip through and I'll be like, okay, I'm doing a webinar. So let me go to the front of this and see where are webinars. Okay, so webinar, let's see, page.
There's an index in the back now.
I know. That's what, okay. So I'll go there. Okay, that's actually not what I was doing. Okay, so here we are, webinars. So webinars, pages 13. Okay, let's go in the 50s because I was promoting a lot of webinars there. And we'll go here and I'll read through and just be like, ooh, okay, got some webinar ideas. That's actually a really good one. Oh, that really was a good email. You know, and then I'll pull some stuff from this, and I'm like, you know, I like this provocative question. Have you ever caught yourself playing a pointless game, checking email or the news over and over and over every minute or an hour? Me too. Sad face. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that could be an angle. Yeah, kind of like, oh, I was addicted. Addicted's a powerful word. You know, they've got this stuff down to a science, blah blah blah. Talking about now, I've made an enemy. I've made people. These app makers, these game makers. They figured out how to hook people and get you addicted to their stuff. You know, and I'm using words like internal psychological and biological triggers, which are big words. You know, and then I train. So I'm like, okay, that gives me some inspiration. You know, back if I look to the index back here. The theme is I want to talk about, okay, so it's an FAQ email. So pages 176 through 78. It's promoting a live stream. You know, I'm doing case studies. If I go to the front, it'll tell me, you know, what, like, okay, I've got some emails around the Christmas time. I've got the Christmas time. That was weird. I've got emails around this holiday. You know, I mean, here's one. Oh, Valentine's Day. I used hearts. The $1 billion blueprint you'll love, you know, and this is just subject lines. And I'll just literally just look through subject lines sometimes. Ooh, unsubscribe from everything. You know, can I give you $3,524? I hate assessments, but this one rocks. You know, those are the type of things you can do from these swipe files. And so I mentioned, I mean, you can grab a copy of this if you want a physical copy. And I do recommend the physical copy. It's amazing. Mark and Robbie will drop the link in the comments there. But I mean, this is amazing. If you want to get a digital copy of this, this is a 200, almost 200. Okay, 191 page. Well, whatever. It's 200 pages. It's a 191 page swipe file. It's literally a year's worth of emails that we sent. You can use this as your inspiration. You can get a digital copy when you register for List Launch Challenge at listlaunchchallenge.com. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But you can get a digital copy of this where you can literally copy and paste some of this stuff. And again, use that to just get inspired. So that's where I'll review swipe files. I also review other people's stuff. And I look at it and I'm like, I basically ask myself the question, you know, 3-4 years ago, what emails did I open? What emails did I read? What emails did I click? I have those all, you know, organized in a swipe file, and I'll just look and I'll be like, okay, boom, got it. Sometimes all it is that I copy from that email is the fact that I use an animated GIF. Sometimes it's just the theme of the subject line. Sometimes it's like, you know what? I really do want to use heart emojis. You know, I want to use that reminded me, or I want to use the sad face emoji in the subject line, and it all I need is that inspiration, and I got the whole rest of the email. The next thing I'll do is the visualization exercise. Now I'm not going to go through that because I did an entire Facebook Live. We can drop the link for that in a second. I did an entire Facebook Live on this visualization exercise. This takes me into that place where I'm visualizing the person taking the action I want them to take, and then where they're at in the future. Now I'm ready to write this email. And again, this whole process from start to finish, a lot of this stuff like the content calendar, the facts, the notes, the call to action, that stuff happens sometimes 4 to 6 weeks in advance. The general message typically we'll do the week before. Sometimes even the day of, you know, is when I'll do that. And then the reviewing swipe files is typically when I'm just gathering my thoughts for what I'm going to write that day. Then I'll do the visualization exercise. Now I'm going to brainstorm subject lines. I always start with the subject line. This is where I will I will agonize over the subject line. I might spend as much time. I'll probably spend half as much time on the subject line, which is 5 to 7 words, as I will on writing the entire 300, 400, 500 word email. Sometimes as much time, because it's everything. I mean, it really is everything. If they don't open, they're not going to read. You have the best written email in the world. Nobody's going to read it. It's kind of like if you've got a butt ugly book cover, nobody's going to read it. You know, they call it a best-selling book for a reason, not a best-written book. That I know of. I mean, other than the Pulitzer, there aren't a whole lot of like best-written book awards. You know, there's no best-written book list, and it's a bestseller. And so the cover matters. They say don't judge a book by its cover. What the heck else are you supposed to judge it by?
We all do.
You know, that saying made sense in 1742 when there were like 37 books that had ever been published.
And 3 covers.
Yeah, it does not make any sense now. It doesn't make any sense now. So agonize over the subject line. If possible, split test. There's 2 reasons why I love to split test. Number 1, you learn. You can, over time, you begin to see, okay, this format works better than this. We'll talk about that in a little bit, like how we analyze things afterwards. But then also the majority of the emails go to the winning subject line. If you send your split test to 30% of your list, that means that 85% of your list gets the winning subject line because 15% got it already, and then 70% got the winning, subject line. So almost your entire list is getting the best subject line. So if possible, split test. A lot of times I don't know. I mentioned earlier that I don't know sometimes. I have 2 subject lines in mind. I have no idea which one's going to work better. In fact, if I were to bet on which one's going to work better, here's the cool thing. I'm wrong 49% of the time. I'm smart enough to be right about 1% extra. But I'm not a great marketer because I'm right, because I know which subject line is going to work. I'm a great marketer because I'm willing to test and be wrong and let technology, handle the rest.
How often are we wrong on subject lines?
About 49% of the time.
Easily.
I mean, yeah, really. I mean, I think we're just smart enough to get the extra 1% right.
Yeah. And when we look at the data, that's about where we're at. Yeah. It's like I'm surprised. Like, I really thought this one was going to win, and it didn't. It's like, never know.
So I'm going to answer Jim's question. How do I get good at writing subject lines? It's the same way you get good at anything. You write a lot of subject lines. There's not a magic formula. You write a lot of subject lines. You split test, and you learn. And we'll talk about the learning here in a little bit, how to analyze these things. You have to analyze. Next, you write the very first sentence. And what you remember is the point of the subject line is to get them to open it. The point of opening it is to read the first sentence. The point of the first sentence is to read the next sentence. And so I want to know, what's my first sentence? I'm looking at a couple of examples here. I just recorded something for you. That was my first, affiliate marketing is easy, right? I want to know, like, what's my very first sentence? Sometimes it'll be 2. I might get 2 really, kind of put together really fast. But a lot of times that's just my starting point. And then from there, I write without editing. If a couple of tips, if I'm not sure about a word, I don't go to thesaurus.com and try to find that word. Because if I go to that part, now I'm using the left brain and I'm in analytical mode. I don't agonize over what to write. I write crap. I think it was Anne Lamott, I'm not sure of her name. Jim Folsom will probably know. I'm going to use the G-rated version. She talked about writing crappy first drafts. I write crappy first drafts. You just have to dump it out on the page. Write without editing. Don't even I don't even usually correct when I put to. I just leave it as to and go back and change it to the later. I write crappy first drafts. I don't do any formatting. I don't bold. I don't italicize. I don't do anything. If I don't debate on whether or not I'm going to use a colon or a period or an ellipse. I just, or am I going to go question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation? Am I going to really go out? I don't even think about necessarily what I'm going to capitalize, what I'm going to put in all caps. I don't think a lot about that. I just write. So write without editing. Now, of course, we need to edit. So what I will do is I will read out loud, and that's my way of kind of making sure it flows. Like, you catch things you don't catch when you're reading silently. So I look first for the flow. Like, does this email flow pretty well? Does it make sense? Are there parts where it's like you said that and then this, and there needs to be a bridge sentence? I look for typos and I correct them. I look okay, where do I want to bold? Where do I want to highlight? Where do I want to, where do I want to italicize? Where do I want to underline? How do I want my link to be formatted? Are there any other things that, do I want to put a picture here? Because I might have had an idea for a picture as I was typing. And what I will do is put picture. I don't go to Google Images or even look for pictures of me or go to Giphy and look for the picture. Yeah, I'll come back and do that later. Unless I'm at my very starting point. There was one example. I'll give you an example. It's in here. It's actually in here, this email, where I said, knew I wanted to write an email about Santa. Our daughter had an idea for an email, and I was like, wait, I actually kind of like that. And I made an image first, and the image was Will Ferrell from Elf going, Santa, I know him. And I was like, okay, that was the basis. I knew that image was already going to be in there. So I actually did the image first. That's probably the only time I've ever done that. So any new words I want to use, this is where I'll agonize and I'll look and say, I'm like, if you're like these folks struggling to grow, do I want to say a different word than struggling? No, I don't. But, do I want to maybe? If you're going, do I want to say succeed or be successful? Which one flows better? Do I want to, say this or that? And that's where I'll go to thesaurus.com and play around with a couple of words. Now I want to let it sit for a day. Okay. I just want to let it sit for a day. It's too fresh. Typically I write emails, and at least most of the time now, not always. In the past, sometimes haven't had the luxury, but now I'm able to write them in batches. And so I'll write 4, 5, 6 emails, just vomit on the page, go through, do this, the editing. I want to let it sit for a day. How does it read the next day? And then the next day I'm going to do the same thing I just did. I'm going to read through it silently once, like I'm reading an email. I will typically actually read it on my phone this time, just because, when you read it on your phone versus a computer, I mean, it's pretty, there's a pretty big difference, and it's kind of that.
That's how a lot of people are reading it anyway.
65% according to our stats. Yeah. I want to see that difference. Like, where are there words breaking at weird parts? Am I like, I'll give you an example, and I can't really think of the best example because I can't think of a super long word right now. But if I could find a really, really long word. Okay. So like if I put the domain name, I always put the domain name or the call to action on its own line. So that's a bad example. That's a long domain. Let's just say, for whatever reason, we had a word that was like 14, letters long, and it had to drop down to the next line. And so now there's this like half the screen across this white space, and it just looks funky. Maybe I need to find a new word. Maybe I just need to find a different word that isn't 14 characters that'll bring it up to the same line, or if I'm really trying to highlight that word, then maybe it just needs to be like centered on its own line, and something like that, and bolded. But I'll read through it silently. I'll read through it aloud again. Again, this doesn't take that long. It takes a couple minutes each time. Does it make sense? Does the email flow? Are there any parts that don't flow? Do I need to add a transition? I'll talk about this in a second when we talk about reviewing with other people. Any formatting needed, like I just said. And then we do the final review is typically where actually Robbie technically has the final review. But Rob, you don't make a lot of changes usually because it's pretty good, because Tara does the review, and I'll be available and she'll read it and we'll talk through it. You can do this by yourself though. But she'll just say something like, you say, I'll never forget that day in August, 1997. I was 7 years old, and I wasn't 7 years old. That would be a weird thing to write. I was 18. My dad said to me, and it's like, wait a minute, Matt, there's a transition missing there, and I'm, sometimes I'm not really great at those. So she'll catch those, and she'll say, are you sure you want to say, I ran my business pretty much by the seat of my pants, or do you want to use a different expression? maybe you can relate. Do you want to put a question mark there, to emphasize that it's sort of a question, like, how do you want to do these things? And we'll talk through this. And then lastly, we want to load the email. Once it's been approved, Robbie will load the email. And I'm going to let him talk about that just real quick about, how he takes that and then turns it into the actual emails that you see in, in your email box. That sounded really old.
Email box
in the email box. Yeah, it's on my desk. No, so what I do is we have a document where we store all our emails. It allows us to collaborate together. It's a Google Doc. Again,
simple
keeping
free
it
tools,
as simple as we can. And from there, I'll copy and paste it over. I'll check the formatting and everything. I'll add our segmentation like we talked about earlier. And then I'll run a couple of tests, because sometimes we actually even will include similar language, but sent to different groups. So if somebody's got a tag that says, they bought a VIP version of something versus didn't, I can adjust the language for them. And that's something we've talked about ahead of time. And I'll do a final read through. I'll go through and I'll check all Matt's language. I'll check all the any spelling, any grammar. I'll even do a test send. So I will send it to my email. I'll send one to Gmail and usually one to a different account, just to make sure we're hitting the primary tab, as opposed to promotions. And from there, we set the time and day, and we let everything else kind of work in the background. If we have any custom segments that are changing, we let those just change in the background, and it sends to only the right people.
Yeah. So Robbie gets loaded. I loaded my own emails for years. It's just that we have a Robbie now. We have the Robbie now. I shouldn't say a Robbie.
There is not a Robbie. There
is no other Robbie. If your name is Robbie, change it.
You're wrong.
You are wrong.
Hence, he has trademarked the term Robbie. Anyway, so one of the most important parts, though, guys, is what to do after you send the email. We're going to share that in a moment. But you just heard. I consider Robbie to be one of the leading experts on Convertkit. He would probably, pull out a big old slice of humble pie and say,
I was one of the first 1,000 customers.
Yeah.
And so I've been with them a long time. I know how the software is used. And I participated in the communities.
Yeah. And Convertkit is our email service provider. It's the one that we use to send our emails. It's the one we believe in the most. I mean, I think it is the best. In full disclosure, is there occasionally like a thing I wish they did that they don't? Of course, but it is the best. I mean, it's like we're able to do just amazing things with it. And as you scale, it's awesome. Plus, like I said, if you've got less than 1,000 subscribers, it's free. Like you can have up to 1,000 subscribers totally free. So as you're getting started, it's nice not to have that expense. So I want to share a way for you guys to get some more training from them. If you're using Convertkit and you're confused by it, or if you don't have an email service provider, or if you have one and you just don't like it for whatever reason, maybe it's because you're paying and you could be free on Convertkit. Maybe it's not able to do some of the stuff. You're like, segmenting, what's that? My email service provider doesn't do segmenting, or, mine doesn't make split testing easy, or any of those things. Then, you know what? I'm going to just say, switch to Convertkit. We'll put the link in the chat there. Free trial up to 1,000 subscribers. And one of the things that we have available to you is a training from Robbie. I mentioned this earlier, where he walks you through how to set up Convertkit, like how to set up your opt-in forms and get subscribers, how to do, like the automation and some basics on segmenting. It's not like there are courses out there that we've invested or he's invested in that are, a lot of money. This is basically distilling that into a very quick video for you, but super valuable. By itself, this training is worth more than what you would pay in List Launch Challenge. But when you join List Launch Challenge, not only do you get that, but you get a digital copy of the ultimate affiliate swipe file. This is only through tomorrow, by the way. So the ultimate affiliate swipe file digital copy goes bye-bye at the end of tomorrow, midnight Pacific time tomorrow. That's no longer going to be a bonus with List Launch Challenge. You get the, Robbie's training, you get our training on avatars, and of course the entire List Launch Challenge, where we walk you through. It's a 7-day program to basically take you from zero, if you're at zero, to possibly hundreds of subscribers. Our average person gets right around 100 in that very short period of time. So we walk you through how to get your first 100 plus subscribers. Some people have used it and they've gotten 300-400. Awesome. Not promising those kind of results. Those are atypical, but typically you will get quick results. You'll build that starter email list. And we've had people who came in and they were at 200, 300, and they added another 200 or 300 like that. How long did it take you to get 200 or 300? A year and a half. And then you doubled it in 7 days, So go to listlaunchchallenge.com. You not only get, like I said, the List Launch Challenge, you get the digital version of the back of this book, of the ultimate affiliate swipe file, a year's worth of emails this is what I use. I'm actually really, I didn't get a copy of this for like 6 months after we created it. I was like, I don't need a copy of my own thing. And I'm like, yes, I do. I want to go through it and use it all the time. So that sits on my desk right here. Anytime I'm writing copy, you get the training from Robbie, a bunch of other amazing stuff, plus all the lessons, plus the community and all that stuff when you join List Launch Challenge. So go join. It's absolutely amazing. You guys are going to get amazing results. Just read through the testimonials on the page. If you go to the page, you'll see the testimonials that absolutely blow you away, the kind of results you're getting. Now, after you've sent the email's been sent, it's time to review. It's time to do a review. It's time to learn. Mm-hmm. And so we wait about 2 weeks. We want to let everybody who had a chance to open it and click it and all that. We probably could do it after 7 days. We just chose 2 weeks because whatever. We're looking for, when we look at this, we're looking for, when you're first starting out, you're going to probably just study every email. But what we're looking for are the outliers. We're looking for an email that had a really high open rate or a really low open rate. Okay, why did it have a high open rate? Why did it have a low open rate? What was the winning subject line in that split test? Okay, that really had a high open rate. Was it the time of day that it was sent? We did send it at an unusual time. Was it the subject line? Was it we sent it on Valentine's and it had heart emojis, or was it whatever? When the pandemic started, open rates across the board just went up. Why? Because people were checking their email more often. They were spending more time on email. So for like a week, I'm like, I'm the greatest copywriter in the world. Oh, wait, no, it's just that it's up, But you want to look for high click-through rates, low click-through rates. Was it because the click-through rate was too low in the email? Was it because it didn't stand out enough? Was it because the call to action was weak? You want to look at things like replies. And so I'm going to share a document here. I'm going to share a screen. Actually, I shouldn't say a document. I'm going to share the document with you. All right, let's see here. Mark will press some magic buttons you guys can see. All right. If you guys can just confirm you can see my screen and let me know. So what you can see here, and it does not have to be this complicated, okay? You can see all of the data about the number of recipients, the open rate. This was a particularly really dark time in our email history here. Red means bad. Those numbers have gone up, and you'll start seeing down here. We've got the subject line, the length of the email, the type of call to action. What am I calling them to do? Go to a podcast episode, that kind of stuff. Is it a hyperlink or a URL link, or both? What does that mean? It means, am I saying click here to blah, blah, blah and hyperlinking that? Or am I just putting the link, listlaunchchallenge.com, right? Number of links, the types of links. Is there a PS? And then is there an image? Is the image hyperlinked? Number of unsubscribes. And we're looking for things like, okay, what caused our unsubscribe rate to go higher? What was the subject line? What won? What type was it? Was it a was it a question? Was it a whatever? And I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, so let's go down here and delineate between this one and this one. This one and this one. What was the difference? And it's like, well, I don't know. Analyzing this, I can't tell a whole lot of difference. But over time, I can begin to deduce certain things that will show me what is actually working. And the important thing here is that you study it. The important thing is that you study those emails. Then you add them to your swipe file. So I go through and I look at this and, the one I just shared, reading lists for the holidays, want to create an online course, ? I'll start adding these winning subject lines, these winning click-through rates to our own swipe file. And I'll begin to note that, wait a minute, and I'm making this up because this isn't one, but man, when I write an email over 500 words, it kills the click-through rate. Okay. But when I write one under 150 words, it also kills the click-through rate. So what does that tell me? It tells us our sweet spot's between 150 and 500, or over time I can narrow that down. Maybe it's between 200 and 400. Actually, I do know that for us, typically the sweet spot's right around 300 to 400 words, But if every email was exactly 300 to 400 words, there's certain things you can't do. Like I said, you can't really do an FAQ email, unless the answer to every question is just yes, no. It's gonna be really hard to do an FAQ email in that out. So add them to your swipe file. Learn how, what works and what your audience is going to respond to. So that is the process for how we write emails. See you guys later.
Ta-da!
Hopefully you guys got a lot out of this. Mark, Robbie, any last thoughts as we wrap up here?
Mark?
Responding to people. No, I mean, I think, like you said at the beginning, Matt, the biggest thing is just realizing that, our system did not start out this way. And, we're giving you this idea to see everything that you can do, but the key is just creating a system. It's having a replicatable system, which I think that's what a system is something you can replicate. So maybe I didn't need to say that, but having that system in place, because like you said, Matt, before you jumped on the team with us, to call what Matt and I did a system would have been very, very kind. So, but it worked. It worked for the time. And then we got more and more sophisticated and we got a better process in place. And, the spreadsheet that Matt, you showed at the beginning, our content calendar, that's 100% Robbie. Without Robbie, that doesn't happen. So we'll go back and watch this again and copy everything Robbie does because it's amazing. That's all.
And I'll end, maybe let Robbie have the final word. I'll end with the what I've said multiple times, which is those limitations. There was a quote. I don't know if you can find it, Mark, and put it up on the screen. Somebody put a quote about, the enemy of art is the absence of limitations. Orson Welles. Thank you for that, Janice. When it's not just limitations, but it's structuring your time and going through this process of thinking, okay, just generally, what do I want it to be about? What are those facts so that I don't have to go chase down, I'm literally all right, I'm going to write a webinar. I'm going to use my creative brain to write a webinar that takes people to this webinar, or write an email, but take people to this webinar. And it's like, wait, when's the webinar again? And then there's a big difference between, even the webinars at 3 p.m. versus 9 p.m. that affects when you send it. That one fact affects everything else that you do. And it affects the mood. It's like, do I want to mention, if a webinar is at 9 p.m. Pacific time, for example, or let's say it starts at 8 p.m. Pacific, that's 11 Eastern for me. then I'm going to reference that I'm going to take a mid-afternoon nap and I'm going to be up late with and have a pot of coffee. Actually, that's not true because I'm not allowed to drink coffee anymore. It just sucks so bad. Oh my goodness. Anyway, one of the most depressing.
I feel your pain, Matt.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, but I would reference that. Like I'm not allowed to have caffeine, period, right now.
Okay, now I feel your pain.
So, but I would, let's say I did, I would reference that. I mean, I might even joke and just say that I'm going to have a pot of coffee ready, or, those are the type of things like you need to know in advance because it allows you to be creative. Knowing that it's, National Chipmunk Appreciation Day could be a source. I don't know how. I mean, I can spin that into something, yeah, those are the type of things you want to know in advance. And so that structure, putting yourself in that little bit of a box actually allows you to really exercise some super creativity.
Yeah, my final thoughts here are develop a process. Your process might look a little different. Take what we've taught, tweak it to fit you, and follow your process. As soon as you create your process, follow it, tweak it, make it yours, and just be consistent with it. The more consistent you can be, the easier it's going to become. And over time, you're going to produce much higher quality emails.
Love it, Robbie. So guys, go check out listlaunchchallenge.com. See, I will get the last word actually.
He always does.
Yeah. Go check out listlaunchchallenge.com. Get signed up, join the challenge. Like I said, you're going to have an amazing experience to learn how to grow your email list. You're going to learn some stuff about getting your list started and getting some of those emails written, getting those lead magnets created and those opt-ins created so people can actually join your list, and creating the content. And you'll learn all kinds of amazing stuff in there that's going to help you. Plus, like I said, the training from Robbie, the avatar training, the digital copy of the Ultimate Affiliate Swipe File, which, I mean, again, alone, like if all you want is a digital copy of the Ultimate Affiliate Swipe File, you just want to be able to have like 191 pages of emails that you can copy and swipe from. Well, then join listlaunchchallenge.com, because you'll get it for $20 less than you would normally pay. Actually, $50 less than you would pay for the physical, and just join it and then never even use the challenge. That's totally fine too. But I think you'll want to use the challenge because you're going to learn some amazing stuff. So go check it out, listlaunchchallenge.com. And Jim and Marilyn, thank you for the compliments, and we will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
See you guys.